Welcome from the luxurious Career Boss headquarters. I've been in business about 45 years. In the last 25 of those, I've been a senior executive. I've been CEO at a couple of companies, CEO of one of my companies right now, and VP at several companies as well. I've learned a lot during that time, and I'd like to pass that on to you. This is part of the Stuff You Should Know series. This is Getting That Job, Part B. It's the second in a series of 4. And let's get started. All right, so this one's where you're actually at the interview. The other one was scouting for the job. That was the first one. Now you're at the interview. I've interviewed a lot of people. I've been in lots of interviews myself, especially as a consultant, which is one of my businesses. And I'm being interviewed as a potential supplier on a regular basis. So one of the first things you've got to do, I'm going to suggest this idea because you want to show a certain level of neatness when you go. So I recommend that you go to some sort of a Staples kind of store where you can get, or any business supply company, and pick up one of these Moleskine brand or knockoff notebooks. They're a succinct notebook. I might have one right here. Maybe I'll show you an example. They're pretty cool. Let's see if we can see this. Yeah, just a typical kind of thing here. And you can see in the back that's got a little place to stick some papers. Get a knockoff, but whatever it is, you want to appear buttoned down. That's the very first thing. You don't want to be taking out a briefcase necessarily and paper after paper and file after file. You want to show that you've got it together and you're ready to go. In the notebook, have your key points that you want to talk about written down, and you're going to freestyle the rest. Also, make sure that you've got the questions for your interviewers, and typically there's more than one, ready at the very end. When they say to you, do you have any questions for us? Make sure you've got 3, 4, or 5 of them there. The other thing is the second that you sit down, open up your notebook, you've got your notes there, you've got a pen ready to go, you want to just show that you're ready and you're neat. Number 3. The greatest question to ask during any interview, either of the person where you say, what is the biggest challenge that you're currently facing? That might be the person who's the hiring manager, director, VP, president, who knows, is to say, again, what's the biggest challenge that you're facing at the company? It's great if you can ask the person directly, but you may have an alternative, which is asking about the company as a whole. What is the biggest challenge the company is facing? This is a fantastic question, and you ask it as early as you get a chance to, because it allows you to set up your answers as you're sort of thinking in the back of your mind what it is you want to say. Number 4, listen, spontaneity is really important. You have to know your materials, but you've got your information written down in your little book. Never, ever worry about memorizing things to talk about when you're trying to impress someone. They can tell. They can see through it. So don't memorize. Just be ready to go. Just go back to that one for a second here. If I go back to the 4th one, I think I might say this in another version of this. This is the second of a 4-part series about getting that job. Don't be afraid to take time to answer a question. In fact, you don't want to be so scrambly that you're there to give whatever answer you can off the top of your head. Take the time to do it. Or if you're asked a question that's a little bit tricky for you, again, take the time you need. If you need a stall, grab a drink of water. Take that moment to think. Okay, number 5. Always, during your interview, think about ways you can add value during the conversation, uh, especially after you've heard the answer to number 3 when you said, what's the biggest value? Challenge the company's facing. Number 6, always leave salary to the end. Let them bring it up. That's probably the smartest thing to do. If you have to give a salary, always give a range because it allows some flexibility. I think that's the best way to approach it. The salary one is tricky. One of the when I used to be recruited on a regular basis by headhunting agencies, recruiters, they'd always throw, there's 2 ways that they approach it, which is kind of interesting. I'm on a tangent, but anyway. So headhunters usually call you and say, hi, my name is so-and-so. I see you're in this area. Do you have anybody that you may know who would be looking for a position that would be essentially the same one I had? The whole idea is that they're trying to ask you if you're interested without being too overt. So that's something that headhunters do. Um, yeah, that's all I can think of for that. Moving to the next one. I like to be 30 minutes early to where I have to go if it's an in-person interview. Just chill out. I mentioned, again, this is a deck that I use for my university students in business. Just chill out, get there 30 minutes early. There's something called a power pose. If you want to look at it, take a look on LinkedIn. Type in power pose, and there's a neat kind of video that'll help you if you're nervous get past that. Then I'll show up at the office, actual office, about 15 minutes before. So I'm scoping out where I'm going 30 minutes before. Then I chill out for 15 minutes, and then I go to where the interview is going to be 15 minutes before. That may be a little bit different during COVID times. You might have to be there, just at the right time. But typically, that's what I want to do. If this is not COVID times, make small talk. If you have to wait at reception, make small talk with the person who's behind the reception desk. Whatever you can possibly see. I remember I was at a potential new client's place, and they had the largest Christmas tree that I'd ever seen before. So small talk would be, that tree is absolutely stunning. How do they actually put the ornaments at the top of the tree? So that, lightens up the person at reception. But most importantly, it starts to put you at ease because you're having that conversation. You're warming up, so to speak, for the interview. If you, I'm laughing because of what happened to me once. If video interviewing, make sure your tech will work. Connect 10 minutes early. That's absolutely fine. I chuckled a moment ago I live in a beach area right now, and they didn't really have the fastest fiber op internet where I lived. And I remember when the university was recruiting me as a prof, um, I had 4 or 5 people. It was during COVID times. I had 4 or 5 people, other profs and the dean interviewing me in this situation. And wouldn't you know that all of a sudden I lost my connection? I mean, that is panic time. And the reason is my connection wasn't that great. So finally, the approach I use when it hits the fan like this, I automatically laugh because you know what? It's kind of funny, right? If you automatically laugh, you're going to be able to figure out how to handle it. So I went in there, I got connected. And what was kind of funny is before I even got back in on the video interview, I could hear them talking and they were saying, I think he's gone. I think he's left. I don't know what happened. And then I basically did, I'm back, and uh, here's what you missed as I kept talking, thinking that it was videoing at the time. So I gave them a quick recap what I talked about. So I had a little bit of fun with it. They had a laugh or two. It ended up working well. But the main point is be ready as you possibly can. May, yeah, some simple stuff. Like I don't worry about my background here because I'm just doing this for you folks here. I've had at any one time, I've had 3 or 4 offices based on companies I'm doing work for. This is my lovely basement that I'm working from. And again, it doesn't really matter to me. I just want to give you the information. Number 10, never, ever, ever. I mean, it seems like common sense. Put down a former boss or company. I mean, for obvious reasons. Sure, everybody likes dirt, but not everybody likes people who tell them dirt. So don't do that. Simply say I learned a lot there. Number 11. Again, I see I covered it here. Don't rush to answer questions. Take the time to think or look at your notes. That's absolutely okay. You don't have to be on your mark all the time, ready to go. Number 12. If this is live, it's harder to do online, but if you're having a live interview, not a video interview, if more than one person is interviewing, make sure you're looking at everyone in the room individually. Okay, so if you're there, you're face to face, face to face to face to face, make sure that you're scanning the room, looking at everybody. Spend a little bit more time on the person answering the question because basically you don't know who the main decision maker is going to be. So you make sure that you look at everybody in the room. And it's also polite. Number 13, thank each person who's interviewed you, which means that you wrote down their first names in the book and where they were sitting. So you're going to thank each person. You're going to stand up, shake their hand, assuming that's still allowed after COVID. And you're just going to you're just going to say, thank you very much, Brian, Joanne, whoever it's going to be. And I think that is the last of part 2 at the interview.